All right. Well, welcome everybody. I appreciate your patience while I got this started. Usually I'm on time for my own meetings, but because I was in Spain last Tuesday for the annual Spanish Access User Group meeting, I had to postpone it for this week, and but I'm glad we're here and we are ready to get going on our topic. Speaking of Spain, we had an amazing meeting with the folks over there. We had around 40 people at a hotel. It was interesting concept because the hotel is something I never had before. It was a cross between a regular hotel and a resort. And the resort that's all inclusive, you get 24/7 drinks and food. But with this hotel, it was like a cafeteria. And the Spaniards have a very different concept of when lunch is and when dinner is. And so our first night there, we asked, okay, when does dinner start? It starts at let me see, 18, 19, 20, at 2000 hours. I'm like, 2000? What is that? It's military time. It's 8 o'clock. So we were having dinner at 8 o'clock at night. And Sarah and I were like having dinner. Usually, we like to have dinner like at 5:30, 6, because I just hate going to sleep with a full stomach. But it was amazing food at lunch, which is what 1:30 in the afternoon. They call it comida. They don't call it almuerzo. They call it lunch. They had paellas, which was great. I love that. I don't like doing rice for evening because I'm taking Ozempic and that slows down my metabolism. And so I don't like having taking rice and for dinner. So that's nice. I would have my rice, my paellas at lunch. And the venue was located in the province of Valencia, Spain, which is the birthplace of the paella. So we had some amazing paellas while we were there. Next year, the whole hotel is going to be just set aside for us. We're going to try sell the whole venue there. So really excited about what Juanjo and the Spanish team was able to accomplish while we were there. It really is amazing. I really appreciate all the effort that went into it and how they were able to get us to a point where it's actually generating a bit of money. He had these little gift boxes for presenters and included a wine bottle, included a bottle of olive oil, some nuts, some local honey. I loved it. But then, it was the beginning of my Spanish trip. I still have a week and a half, so I was dragging this case in my luggage to the west of the trip in Spain. And we were driving 4 to 5 hours every night, every day to get to different destinations. Love Salamanca. Have you ever had a chance to go to Salamanca? I really do recommend it. They have the University of Salamanca, which is great, and I just had a great time there. We also went to Malaga, which is where Desi, my salesperson in Europe, is located, and then from there we went to the upper northwest peninsula to see the Tower of Hercules. And then we ended up in Avila the day before we came back, which is an ancient city that is surrounded by a wall. It still has its wall intact around it, and we were able to walk the walls, and it's just amazing. It's like I was transported back to a movie set back in the medieval times. We were able to go and do that, so it was pretty neat. Really nice experience. I do recommend Spain. I'm getting a little tired of Spain because every time I go to one of these meetings, I go every other year or so. But next year I'll probably go anyway, and probably start going every year. But I'm really getting tired of Spain, so I was saying, Sarah, maybe we should do other countries like Italy, which is one of my favorite places to go visit. And so we'll probably be doing that. All right. So that was the update I have for you. There's been some really amazing news coming out for artificial intelligence. I want to briefly touch base with you guys. Google I/O just finished. They came out with a different way of searching the web that may impact my business model, may impact the stuff that I'll be talking to you guys tonight. We'll see. One of the things that before that was the ChatGPT came out with ChatGPT 4.0. And you haven't looked at the demo, I do encourage you to take a look at that. It was pretty amazing how they were able to, I'm doing multiple things here at the same time. That's why. It was amazing how they were able to get the interaction going with no latency, right? So I have Alexas all over the place, and I gotta be careful because she's here. Like I'll tell her to turn on my office AC. I'll just mention her name, says turn on office, and on my way out the door, I say turn off office, and knows that that's my air conditioner. And to a certain extent, I can have a conversation with Alexa. Alexa, do you have a boyfriend? I love you. I mean, I throw some some questions to her. Who's your mama and who's your daddy, and I ask her all these kind of things. But the thing is, they're pre-programmed responses versus what ChatGPT 4.0 demoed earlier this week. It is pretty amazing. Has anybody had a chance to look at that presentation, by the way? The ChatGPT 4.0? Anybody at all?
Can you put the link in the chat box?
Yeah, if I find it, or if anybody else can find it, put the link on there, that'd be great. Let me see here. My conclusion to all this is we're not seeing any of it in Access. Now, some of you I know participated recently in the presentation that Carl had last month for Europe Access. And I had two employees participate, Steve and Renier from my firm. One of the more interesting aspects of what we wanted to look at was the artificial intelligence inside Access. And as part of that, we looked at the demos, and we concluded that it's just not there yet, right? It's just not worth what's happening here. There's people, some brave souls who've been able to go ahead and include ChatGPT into Access, but it's been, it's like fitting a square hole into a round peg, and a round peg into a square hole, excuse me. And it's just not worth it at this. And there's really no plan by the Access team to incorporate Copilot into Access or Copilot into VBA, which is really inexplicable to me, right? Because VBA is probably the most used language in the world, solely based on Excel, right? Because with Word, it's a whole different thing. But with Excel, you really have way more spreadsheets and Access, and there's lots of more VBA there. And so to me, why not develop a Copilot for VBA, right? It's just not their focus. So it's really unfortunate. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. I've got my presentation here and share. All right, so do you see my presentation? All right, I want to be able to see in case somebody else is in the chat trying to get in. I want to make sure that I capture that in there as well. All right, so look, making the leap to being your own consulting practice is quite the challenge, right? When I first started on this journey back when I had hair in my head, Sarah and I discussed it at length, and she said, well, wait until I finish my master's. Now, typically, this is what you'll notice in a relationship where the wife is much more conservative than the husband. The husband's like, no, let's go ahead and do it. I want to quit. I want to start this practice right away. And so it took me a while. Now, it so happened I started my consulting firm before there was no internet. Really, it was just DARPA, a couple of DARPA servers out there communicating with each other. There was no World Wide Web, no Google, no nothing, right? And so I was doing sales the old-fashioned way, which is knocking on doors, walking down streets, handing out credit business cards, doing networking events, you name it, I did it. And then my journey progressed significantly over the years until now I have a seven-figure practice, right? And just focus on Access. And I'll be talking about that more in a second. All right, quick survey here. Who can you raise your hand if you are already a consultant? Let's just see quick say. How many already consultants? Raise your hand for me. Alphonse, okay, thank you. And anybody else besides Alphonse? All right, I've got Linda. Thank you, Linda. I think Roy is also a consultant. Roy from is that I believe Roy is a Azure MVP. Roy, thank you for joining us. All right. Yep, there he is. Roy just said that. Okay, good. And now, how many of you are thinking about leaving your job and doing consulting? How many of you are thinking of? I think pretty much George or is a retired consultant, right? But Linda, all right, all
I'm
right.
still,
So
I'm still, I'm still working. But the thing is, you don't have to quit your job to consult. Keep your job and do it, on evenings. And then when it gets big enough, then you quit your job.
exactly, and that's how I did it, right? That's how I did. Many
And
people are,
and the people who I found are most likely to give you leads are the people who do computer hardware.
yeah, yeah. That's a great source. These days they're called MSP, managed service
I,
providers.
I had a friend who put an ad in the New York Times, but he said he just got a lot of, people looking and they really didn't want to pay the money.
Yeah, advertising is tricky. I've tried it all. I've tried radio, paper. Nothing beats Google, and I'll be talking about that when we get to the advertising
Yeah.
here. So, why would you want this life? You reach the ceiling of your existing job, right? You don't feel there's any upward movement. You're young and you wish to explore the possibilities. I mean, that's the nice thing about this. I started when I was young. My family was young. It's a little harder to do that when you have a mortgage. And now, you're trying to, it's hard because you're giving up that steady paycheck, right? In order to start a consulting practice. And so what you want to do is be able to have a little bit of a cushion. But this consulting life has its ups and downs in terms of cash flow, right? Some months you're at the top of your hill and you're awash in cash, and some months you're struggling, right? And you're overextending your credit cards. For the longest, that happened to me. I was extending my credit cards to the max and my credit lines. Like I would make a payment to my credit line. I think I started with a $50,000 credit line. Now I have 160,000. I haven't touched it in a while, but the time to or ask for a credit line is when you don't need it, right? So I learned that the hard way. I was able to pare down my credit cards and my credit line, repair my credit. My credit was in the tank with I think a 500 rating. Now it's 800 something. I have an excellent credit. But look, the fact of the matter is that if you're a one-man show, then you're going to have these ups and downs, right? And so it really behooves you to go ahead and see if this is something that you really want to do. All right. And so, like Linda said, consider doing this part time and then doing fine time. And then, it'd be nice if you can get your assistant employer. So on Friday, I resigned from my job. On Monday, I was back with them as a paid consultant. And that really irked my former boss to no, no end. He saw me at Mondays like, oh, he shake his head because he knew I was 3 times more expensive. Now one of the reasons I went to consultants, I asked for a raise and he denied it. Well, then I got my raise anyway. No, the fact is that not everybody's cut out for the consulting life, right? You have to be a people person. You really do, right? You need to be able to communicate well, effectively. You need to know how to sell, right? And a lot of great programmers, right? Great access consultants, no matter what you do, not necessarily great salespeople. And so sometimes you sputter and you fall and you're trying to close deals at the same time. People hate the sales aspect of it. I love sales because I'm good at it. So of course, no question why I love sales, right? But not everybody loves sales. All I want to do is get a job and work on a job and then go line up the next one, right? And so they're constantly trying to look for their next gig. So,
One of the things, okay, I get I don't know, one or two a week, maybe more, for access jobs with very little pay. And what I've tried to talk them into, and they don't even think about it, is they must have a budget for the project. Okay. Now my rate is $200 an hour. So I tell them, tell me what your budget is. I will see if I can do it for that amount. And I'll give, it's usually a headhunter of some sort. I'll give you 20%. I never hear back. And that really should be the model. In other words, they should know how much it's going to cost, and
Yeah.
and they should work this out with me. Not one person has ever done this.
Well, I'll be talking about that later on in the presentation, how to handle budget questions. But
I
thank you
mean,
for
some
bringing it
people
up.
have said, tell them you'll do it for $40 an hour, and then just, multiply your work by
Yeah.
5 times. Now, I
Yeah.
probably could do that, but I'm not
No,
comfortable.
no, that's not. Look,
I'm
the
not
fun thing I
comfortable with
always
that.
advocate, right? The only thing I always advocate is that you be sincere, right? Do not lie to your clients. Now, having said that, there's ways to fudge the truth, right? So sometimes we're a small firm. We have 20 employees spread out over 4 continents. So when somebody asks me, how many employees do you have? I'm like, oh, we have employees in 4 continents, which is true. We do have employees in 4 continents, but sometimes they realize they're wise and they're years and well, you didn't really answer the question. I'm like, yeah, I've got 20 employees. So I never lie when it comes to business, but there's ways to say things that help you out, right? And we'll be talking about a little more about that. Now, the fact of the matter is that you really need a website for this business, right? I mean, the website is your calling card. Business cards, I can't remember the last time I handed out a business card, but I do have a really nice business card that's unique because I want to use the business card as a conversation starter, right? So I'll hand somebody a business card. They're like, oh, they're blown away by the design. Oh, this is great. And it's really a wonderful way to start a conversation at a networking event. But also, I can't tell you how many times I've met consultants who don't have a website. They're like, no, I don't have a website.
I had a website. It was of no value whatsoever.
And so, the fact is, I'm going to discuss the value to you for you guys in a second. Why I insist that you should have a website.
I gave it up
Uh,
completely.
yeah, look, and if you don't need it, God bless you, right? But I do recommend, especially if
My
somebody's
client,
starting out.
okay. My clients and the hardware people I work with recommend clients.
Yeah, I mean, you've been at this for so many years now, Linda, right? That the website is pretty much
Yes. Well,
irrelevant at
like
this point.
65 years.
Yeah, right. And so, but somebody who's starting out can definitely be. And then one of the things that I did not do when I first started out, and actually the name of my firm when I first started was PC Experts, and I still own the PCExperts.com domain. And I was doing networking back then. I was building PC because there was no Best Buy, right? It's not like you can go to a store and buy back then it was Compaq and Dell came onto this. And so, back then I was doing
Okay.
PCs and break fix and networking and hardware sales. It was just because I needed to, right? In order I didn't have Google to advertise in and get clients. But these days you want to focus on a particular segment. That doesn't mean you don't have multiple segments in your practice. In fact, I encourage you, once you have established in the segment, to expand your revenue streams, right? And be able to incorporate. So now we have a web department, and we do a lot of Power BI, Power Automate Desktop. It's just a great way to diversify. So, okay, where to get customers? Let's see here. Essential online tools. These are a little obsolete. Focus on segment. Where to get customers? No, look, the fact of the matter is you should start in a concentric circles that start with smaller circles. One of the biggest things that I realized early on is my friends and family didn't know what the hell I was doing. They're like Microsoft Access, of course they would encourage me. That sounds really interesting. Did they have idea what Microsoft Access? No, they didn't have the slightest idea. Started with my wife. That's why it was important to me that I would show them examples of my work and then they would click, right? Oh, okay, custom invoice system, custom order systems, custom quoting systems, right? I have examples, many examples that I have worked on, and so my families and friends knew exactly what I was talking about. So it's important you educate your inner circle so they can recommend you better, right? And so they hear these keywords and they perk up and they can say, "Well, I know a guy who can help you out." And so that's why you want to start with that smaller circle and make sure they understand what you do. And when it comes to Microsoft Access, a lot of people have never seen a Microsoft Access database. They have no idea. A lot of people haven't. have never seen a database to begin with, right? And so they don't know what a table is or what a record is or a form. So you want to be able to limit the discussion in a way to do this. And that's where the elevator pitch comes on, right? And so the elevator pitch is you're on the 20th floor in an elevator, and the elevator walks this owner of a local business that could be a potential client, and you got 20 floors to make your pitch. And this is a fast elevator, right? You probably have 30 seconds before the doors open up. And so what is your pitch? So I'm going to show you, I'll be telling you what my pitch is here in a second. Power partners, like Melinda mentioned, MSPs are great power partner because they don't do software. They handle everything regarding this. Not a month goes by, I don't get a call from MSP who says, hey, I have a client that's got Microsoft Access. Can you help him out, right? And so I aggressively have a marketing plan to reach out to MSPs on LinkedIn, let them know, hey, if you ever need help, if any of your clients need Microsoft Access help, I'm here. The other one is Chamber of Commerce user groups, right? That's used to be in the old days. Chambers of Commerce are not as relevant as they used to be. Now we got LinkedIn and Facebook that you need to leverage. User groups are also a great way to do this blogging. Also another great way of doing it. And quite honestly, when I do networking events, I encourage people to call me. Right? I mean, I'd rather they call me, ask me about the issue they haven't access. I can resolve it over the phone in 30 seconds. Great, no problem. I won't charge them, right? I wanted to get them used to calling me and viewing them as their experts. And I've gotten people who took me up on the offer. And eventually, they became customers. So I always tell people, hey, if you get stuck on something, rather than wait, spend 4 or 5 hours on it, just call me. And if I can help you out over the phone, I'll do that. All right. So my elevator speech, my elevator pitch, right? I'm going to give it to you guys. So you're standing across from the elevator from me, and I tell you, look, I'm Juan Soto. My company's called IT Impact. We help companies discover the power of their data through programming, reports, and analysis. And then the elevator doors open up. Now, notice in my elevator pitch, I don't mention Microsoft Access. I don't mention SQL Server. I don't mention Azure. I don't mention any of that stuff. I help companies discover the power of their data. And in fact, discoverthepoweroftheir data.com is my website. And I actually trademarked it. So not only do I have the website, I also have the trademark. And so, you want to be able to prepare the elevator pitch, practice in front of a mirror, and be able to be at a moment's notice to be able, because you don't know when your next customer is coming from, right? It could be somebody calls you randomly out of the blue and says, hey, I heard you do this and that. Yes, I do. This is what summarizes what I do, right? I think a website is critical, right? I really do. These days you can get a really cheap or inexpensive website. And you can go to istockphoto.com. People love websites. I'm going to show you my website here real quick because I want to make a point. And my first point is the name of the company is IT Impact. I'm not showing you itimpact.com. What am I showing you? AccessExperts.com. There is no rule that says that you have to have a domain. I mean, I still encourage you to have a domain with your company. I own itimpact.com as well. But I have a domain that explicitly says what is I do, right? My domain is Access Experts, and I'm an Access Expert. And I love having photos. People love having photos on the website, right? So this is a professionally designed website, and it really is a calling card because people want to be able to be confident. And so it's just a great way. Now I'm going to show you a couple of neat features of this website. I want you, if you have a website, that you should have as well. Number one, the phone number is clickable. You can click on this phone number and it will actually dial my number, right? Great way to be able to have people easily call you right from the web. This email is also clickable, right? And I don't, I get a lot of spam through that sales@impact.com, but still, I want people to reach out to us, right? I will show you another few features, but let me go back to my presentation here. I don't want to get off track. So look, we do a lot of Google advertising, and we use some simple SEO. And so before I talk about the advertising, I want to talk about the SEO. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to open a new domain. Now we got Alphonse in New Jersey, right? So if I need an access expert New Jersey, am I going to see Alphonse? They're listed, right? Jersey, if I can spell Jersey correctly. Jersey. Access expert New Jersey, right? All right, so let's take a look at the Microsoft Access Database, accessforbusiness.com. And then Alphonse, let me know if any of these is your website, by the way. Uh, Strand Management. I'm not sure if this is a access or a generic web service, right? Access for Business. This guy is doing great. He's got multiple listings here. AskData.com. Thank you, Alphonse. Access New Jersey. Wow, purchasing with a purpose, not irrelevant at that point. Strand Management, Lauda Consulting. These might be competitors of Alphonse, right? And what I want to do is make sure Alphonse website, which is adhdata.com, comes up to the top. And I'm going to be showing you how Alphonse can do that with some very simple things. But if you want to do that, let me show you what I do in Chicago. So if I put in Ask Expert Chicago, that's me at the very top. Now notice I'm using Microsoft Bing and it's got me on the map. So I actually went on the map and Google and I claimed my address for my business, my home address. So this is actually my home address here. And I've got here. I need to add hours for Bing, but if you go to Google and do this, it'll be there. In fact, let me just go ahead and do it Google. And because most people still use google.com, although Bing search is getting much better. So Access Expert Chicago. All right. So here I am at the very top. I'm also here second place. And I'm also here in third place. Now, Chicago is a bigger city than New Jersey, right? And so I've got the Chicago market pretty much cornered. I'm not sure if this is me or not. Here I am again. This is me also. I have multiple domains, not just Access Expert. I also have Microsoft Access.org. Not a competitor, right? This is just training, right? Chicago Access Control System, not relevant. Vascular, Microsoft Access training classes, Chicago, job search, Access One, managed IT services, not relevant. I'm looking for a competitor of mine here that might show up. I wanted to make a point, but apparently and these are all images from my website. You just gotta love it when it's hiding. So how did I achieve this? Well, there's very easy things to do that you can do right away to modify your website so you can do the same results I got. Number one, think local, small, right? So if you're in New Jersey, think you should focus your SEO on New Jersey. If you're in Sandusky, Ohio, you should focus on probably a little bit bigger than Sandusky, Ohio, maybe a local region, right? The county or multiple counties. But you want to be able to do hyper focus on the locality so that you can get that traffic to your website, right? Because this is something people will do. They'll go in there and put Access Expert Chicago, Access Expert New Jersey, Access Experts New York, right? And then you want to be able to show up. Now, a couple of things I want to point out for you here. Number one is notice that my phone number is in the Google listing. How did I achieve that? Well, it takes all of 5 seconds to do that. This is what's called the caption properties. So if you hover over here, this is my website, right? Look at that. When I hover over my website, you actually see the phone number. This is the caption property for that web page. So if I click on my website here, if I go back to my website and I hover over that, you'll see it. So Google is reading the caption property of the page in order to show you the information in Google. So this is what you need to do with your own website. You need to modify the caption property. In the case of phones, right, it needs to say Access Expert New Jersey, followed by the phone number. I can't tell you how many times people have called me and says, you were the only one with a phone number. You know what that tells me? They didn't even bother clicking on the link. They've picked up the phone. Oh, okay, 844-328-2636. Hey, hi, yes, I need help with the Microsoft Access. Absolutely. Right. So some people will not even bother. They'll just click here. Now, if they're on a mobile device like a cell phone, It's even more easier because a cell phone, they just click the call and they call you right away. So by using the caption property, and this is what's called, I call it 15-minute SEO because it takes all of 15 minutes to do this. You want to have the keywords of what you are, Access Expert New Jersey, followed by your phone number and the caption property of your homepage. But you should have multiple pages on your website. So if I go back to my website and I go to another, let's see, let's go to case studies here. And I look at the caption property and case size, it's actually Amazon API developer. And I've also gotten calls from that. People who need help with their Amazon API, right? So you want to leverage the caption property based on what your objectives are. Do you want to get more work where you're integrating Access with SQL Server? You should have a page set up that talks about your SQL Server integration services, and the caption property of that page should leverage those keywords. So find the keywords that your customers are typing into Google, and then leverage that by using the caption property of the page. And you're going to see some really nice effects happening with the Google search. Just a easy, wonderful, straightforward way of doing this. Now, in the past, when I've done this, I've actually seen competitor links here, and they don't have the phone number. Now, I've been doing this for many years now. I've been telling people my secrets on sales, right? And my competitors still don't do that. So, some of my competitors that showed up at these meetings, they still haven't done it, right? They haven't gotten around to it, maybe. It's really easy to do some basic SEO to help you out to drive traffic to you. So you want to start small with your local city, then expand. I can say Access Expert Illinois, right, would be the next expansion. Now, Cook County is the county I live in, right? And I need to do some work there, right? Because I'm so hyper focused on the city, I need to do some work. And then even more than that, I could say Access Expert Illinois, right? And so you want to be able, there I am, Access Expert Illinois. I showed up number one. That's nice. That's there I am again, right? So you want to be able to sprinkle Illinois or the state you're in, wherever that state is, in your pages so that it shows up on the caption property. Make sense? Okay, let's talk about Google advertising. Google advertising has been so effective. We actually have the joke around the office where we send our best sales guy to Hawaii every year. So we send Google, right? So I spend a lot of money on Google advertising. It used to be when I first started, I was paying 10 cents a click. Boy, well, those are the days. And I did it myself. Now I have a professional team that works on it throughout the month. They cost me a pretty penny every month. The clicks. Now, please don't click on my ads, right? When you see my ads, because every time you click, they cost me 15 to 20 bucks a click. I want to preface this conversation about Google advertising where I have people who come to my seminars and they say, I tried Google advertising. I tried it. It was terrible. I didn't get any leads on it. Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that. What was your budget? I think we spent like $500 and we dropped it. I'm like, okay, well, you're not going to see really good results with $500 in a Google campaign. So for comparison purposes, I spend anywhere between $12,000 and $15,000 a month on Google advertising. Why do I do that? Because invariably, I get anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000 in new business. Right? So you heard that right. I spend $12,000 to $13,000 a month, and I get anywhere between $25,000 and $50,000 in new business. Sometimes I hit the mother load and I close a deal for $100,000. Now, if I look, because I'm the sales director, I look at the average sale. So my average sale is right now hovering around $8,000. Right. So if you divide 50,000 by 8, that's how many deals I do throughout the year, throughout the month. So it's around, 6 to 7 deals a month I do. So I'm closing 1 to 2 new clients a week. Now, obviously, when it comes to this stuff, I'm pretty big, right? In terms of advertising Google, I got a big practice. If you're a single man person, you're not going to do that because it's just you. You're going to go crazy. You're going to have more work than you need to do. But $500 is not going to work. 13,000 is unrealistic because not all of you have $13,000 laying around. But you really need to spend more than 500 because the average sale And a consulting practice like ours is around several $1,000s, right? So I'm going back to the example of that person who told me they spent 500. I said, well, what's your average sale? Oh, the average sale is like 5,000. Well, if you spend enough money in Google advertising where you can close a $5,000 deal a month, would you be happy? I'm not saying how much you would spend. I'm just saying if you spend enough money where you're closing one deal a month, would you be happy? So I'd be extremely happy. Okay, well, that's your threshold, $5,000. Now, I don't recommend you go out there and spend $5,000 willy-nilly, right? You should probably have some professional help. And if you're interested, I can refer you to the firm I use. But the fact of the matter is that uh, this is the way people find me, right? They find me through my Google advertising and my Google ads. There's a lot more science to this, right? Make sure the ads look great. The website also makes them great, right? Because they're going to the website. But if you're going to go down this route, it is worthwhile, right? Now, I had an employee once tell me, Juan, why do you give everybody the keys to the kingdom? And I'm like, what do you mean? I says, well, you're telling people how our secret sauce. Why are you doing that? I'm like, look, just because they watch karate videos on YouTube, that doesn't make them a karate expert, right? And so the fact of the matter is there's more work out there for Access Consulting than there are Access Consultants. If you look at if I were to poll the average age in the group that's in here, welcome, Kent. Thank you for showing, thank you for
Good morning,
saying,
Juan.
for being,
I
yeah,
thought I'd
thank you.
come and see how it's done.
Oh, thank you. And so, look, the fact of the matter is, I'm 61. I just turned 61 last week in Spain when I was in Spain. Had a fabulous birthday celebration over there. But we're not young. If you look around the group, Dale, George is retired. Linda is also getting up there. You don't see a lot of young blood on these meetings. And so the fact of the matter is there's more work for Access Consultant than there are Access Consultants. They just need to find you,
Hey,
right?
I'm
And
only
so
84. I still have years to go.
yes, there you go. Now let's talk a little bit about the psychology of why somebody goes to Google to entrust them and your and you trust their mission critical applications to a consultant they never met, right? So let's walk through that thought process because it's important that if you do make those modifications to the website I talked earlier, and Kent, you missed it, but you can go to the recording that's going to be posted later this week. But if you do the 15-minute SEO and you do land work, right? How did you get that client? Now, you have to put yourself in the mindset of the client. Here I am. I'm a director of a manufacturing plant in Sandusky, Ohio. It's a small manufacturing plant, $14 million a year in sales. We use Microsoft Access for everything. We use it for order entry, invoicing. It's our ERP, right? It runs the whole factory from front to finish, but it's an old application, 2003. And it's really showing its years. First of all, I can't upgrade the PCs because newer PCs can't run Access 2003. So there's all kinds of issues, and I have to bite the bullet and find an Access consultant to help me. Now, if I'm that person, what's my first thing I'm gonna do? My first thing is to tap into my local network, right? My another firm that's using Access in their factory. I might call them up. I might call my MSP guy, the guy who handles my networking. He's like, I don't know any Access consultant. Go check Google, right? So he's going to be hearing this throughout his network when he touches base because this is the crown jewels of the factory. You don't want to trust this to anybody. You really want to trust it to some guy you found on Google? No, right? You want to avoid that. So if you can find somebody who is reliable and comes well recommended, perfect. But if you don't, now you got to go to Google and you put in Access Expert Sandusky, Ohio. You're not going to find anybody. So then you expand your reach through Ohio. Then finally you go to the US and you'll start seeing my ads. And the ads are good enough to entice you to click. Takes you to my website. Website looks great, right? So now they're on my website. All right, okay. You know what? This guy's Access Expert. That's exactly where I need. Access Expert. What's the coincidence of that, right? It's not itimpact.com, which is the name of my firm. It's accessexperts.com. And they read through here, they look through the case studies, they see how our experience with manufacturing. right? And like, okay, this is worth a call. So they might fill out the contact form. Most of my leads fill out the contact form. They're not just contacting me. They're going down the list sometimes of people in Google because they want to hedge their bet. What if I turn out to be somebody that's not the right person for them, right? So they want to hedge their bet and be able to say, okay, I need to contact several people. So when they reach out to me, what do I have to do? I have to convince them that I'm their consultant for them. They should stop their search and continue working with me, right? But the fact is, I know what their mindset is. They went to Google because they had no other choice. And so it's important for me that I allay their fears and show this thing. Now, how do I do it? Well, so happens I'm an Access MVP, right? I've been Access MVP now for 13 years, straight years. I'm a Microsoft Gold partner. I went through a rigorous certification process to be a Microsoft Gold partner. Google my name, you'll see that I've been well regarded in the industry, right? So the brand Juan Soto has some gravitas at this point to be able to convince them that we're not a fly-by-night corporation. We're totally transparent, right? And we are the people that they can count on for their mission critical application. Because this is bottom line, this is what we are, right? We're resolving their mission critical issues. I mean, they're resolving their issues with their mission critical system. These are the crown jewels that they're entrusting us with. By the way, if you call this number, 844 Dataman, or our local number, 773-809-5456, you get a live operator without fail and encourage you to call so you can hear them. They're great service. Between 8 in the morning and 5 p.m., they are calling. There's always a live operator. I used to have an operator on my staff, which was costing me anywhere between $45,000, $50,000 a year. Not anymore. And now I use Ruby. So Ruby is a service out of California. They only use local native speakers, people, and they're really programmed to say, "Hey, thank you for calling IT Impact, where we help you discover the power of your data. How can we help you? Oh, I'd like to talk to sales. Okay, well, so a moment, let me get to the sales department, right? Or I need technical support, or I need to talk to the accounting department." So they have a menu, and those choices go to 7 different people on my company. But in your case, if you're a one-man show, they all go to the same place, right? But I still encourage you to have a menu. That way you know what the call is coming from. So when they say, "I'd like to talk to sales," okay, let me get you in support with Alphonse or Linda or Dale. Or I have an accounting issue with my invoice. Okay, let me get you with Alphonse, Dale, or somebody like that, right? And so it's just a wonderful service. I encourage you to do that. Why is that important? Because these days, most companies do not have a live operator, and it's very frustrating. It's frustrating to me, right? I've got these chat bots I got to deal with. I'm pressing 0. I say, "Associate, what do you need help with?" Associate, right? Sometimes that works, right? So I've heard that cursing at these chatbots also work. They're programmed so people to tell the frustration of the person to get you a live operator. Some people like LinkedIn, for some reason I saw this LinkedIn charge on my credit card. I don't know where it was coming from. It was like $100. I tried calling a number. There is no number to call. I mean, think about that. LinkedIn, who gets loud money, their money through sales and advertising, does not have a phone number for somebody who's using their sales and advertising process. So I just call my credit card company and have them return the fees back to me, and then I'll probably have to call every month until LinkedIn decides to stop charging their credit card. Having a live operator is fantastic because they'll tell me you're the only one that can answer my call right away, right? So right off the bat, these leads have a great impression of our company. Says, "Oh wow, look at that! I got a live person right off the bat. They call the number. I got a live person." Now after hours, it goes to my phone, my cell phone, so I try to pick up the call. And that service costs me $300 a month, dirt cheap. And it probably costs you a lot less because you're not going to have as many calls as I have for the sales volume I have, right? And so if you do decide to go to the service, let me know, and I get a small referral fee. And I think you get credit for your account too when you first start with them if you do a referral code. If you decide not to use a service, it should go to your cell phone, right? So for the longest, this was my cell phone number. that I was using here, the 773 number. I had a cell phone number there. And people would call me on that number, and I know rarely, sometimes I just let it go to voicemail because I'm busy. I'm working on I was a one-man show, right? I was working on a project, couldn't answer the phone. Google advertising, great way to grow your business rapidly. Just wonderful. This is another thing that you were going to grapple with, right? What is it you charge? If you charge too little, people are not going to respect you, right? If you charge 25 bucks an hour, they're not going to respect you. But what's funny is when I first started this 30 years ago, by the way, 2024, it's been 30 years now since I started this. 30 years ago, I was charging 15 bucks an hour. I thought the world back then of that. I'm like, oh man, you know, 30 years ago, adjusted for inflation, was still not bad, but I was making 15 bucks an hour. I thought that was the best. Now I'm at 235 an hour, and if they want me, it's 325 an hour. Sometimes they call and say, hey, I want the grade one Soto working on my stuff. No problem. In order for me to disassociate myself from my sales, running the firm so I can work on your project, it is a premium rate associated with that, right? But the fact is, when you start, you have a lot of inventory available, a lot of your time. And this is something you really need to realize. You're selling your time. And you only have so much you sell, right? And there's a theoretical limit how much money you can make. If you don't have any clients, you want to give them a good rate. Now, Linda's charging $200 an hour, so I'm charging $235, so $185 an hour is a great way to start, great starting point, right? Because you're undermining your competition in order to grow your business. But the rate is functional based on how busy you are. So as the more busier you get, the more you're going to start charging. Linda didn't start charging $200 off the bat. She started charging more and more as she grows his practice, right? And so same way with me. Choose a rate that you're comfortable with, that you can sell at, right? And still not undermine yourself and your credibility by charging too little. That charge them until they bleed, that was a little joke there I put in there. Now this is important. If you're currently making $150,000, like if I were to quit everything, go work for somebody as their sales director, I'd probably charge them $250,000, right? $250,000 a year as a wage, just the wage, not including, and maybe the wage plus commissions, right? Let's say $250,000 a year. But if I'm currently making $150,000 a year, I'm not going to make $150,000 if I quit that job and start becoming an access consultant or whatever kind of consultant I am. I just not. Why? Because you still have to do accounting, you still have to do customer service, you still have to pick up the phone when somebody calls, create quotes, right? Follow up. I mean, it's just not feasible for you to make six figures when you're first starting out in this business, because there's so much that's going on when you're a one-man show that you have to take care of. Now, in my case, I was working until 3 or 4 in the morning. I can't do that anymore. I'm not a baby, right? But when I first started, I had hair on my head. I was working till 3, 4 in the morning because I had no choice. I was during the day I was selling, and during the night I was programming. And it was miserable. I was miserable some nights. I'm like, man, here I am another night at 3 or 4 in the morning, working Saturday, working Sunday. Because it was just me, right? Now, if you sell 20 hours at $125 for 52 weeks, that's $130,000. When I first started here, I was making around 30,000 or 40,000 a year. And over the years, I started, getting more work and more clients. Still just me. I think the best year I had was 45,000 a year, way back then, right? So there is an expectation that you should make at least around 50,000 a year if you're a single man show, right? And if you're not making 50,000 a year, there's something wrong. You're not doing either. You're not selling correctly, or you're not selling enough, or you're not working as long enough. Now, in the case of Linda and George, they're retired. They're close to retirement. They might decide not to work on Fridays. Like right now, I don't work Fridays. I just decided that I'm going to I'm going to be working 4-day weeks from here on out.
I have
But
no plans to retire.
no plans to retire. So, but when Linda retires, her first call is going to be, Linda, who are you going to call first in order to sell your practice to? Who are you going to sell your practice to take care of all your clients? Hopefully you'll call me. Says, Juan, I'm ready to take the plunge. I need to take care of these clients for me. Anyway, so look, the only way you're gonna make 6 and 7, 6 high-end 6 figures like I do is when you start hiring people. And that's a whole different topic. I can talk about how to manage a practice with multiple employees, all that, until the cows come home, because I just do it for a living on a daily basis, right? But I didn't start making serious money until I started hiring programmers to work for me. Now, there's several ways to go about that. You can subcontract, right? You like say, for example, I sell a job at 235 and I pay somebody $100 an hour to do it. They're happy. They're making $100 an hour. I'm happy because I'm making 100% on the margin, right? There's some drawbacks to that approach. There's some cons and there's some pros. One pro is they're not on your payroll. So if there's no work, they don't work. I would tell people who I contract, you get paid when I get paid, right? Because that way there's no expectation about, hey, I submit my invoice, I expect to get paid in 15 days. No. You submit your invoice to me, I submit an invoice to the client. When the client pays me, based on the work you did, that's when you get paid. Not when you get paid when I get paid, is basically what I told them. It's a great way to start a practice and be able to make more money, right? Because invariably you're great at selling. Hopefully you're great at selling. And you can find people who are not great at selling, but they're great programmers, and you help them out. You help each other out. It's a symbiotic relationship. The other aspect here would be then to start taking on employees, paying them 40 hours a week, and then be able to say, okay, you know what, paying 40 hours, where do they bill 40 hours from that? Now, in my firm, there's a standard where you have to bill 32 hours a week, right? So I tell all my employees, your goal needs to be 32 hours a week. You got to bill me 32 hours a week. So that's 8 hours to do other stuff, training, checking your emails, right? So throughout the week, it's a 40-hour week. They get 8 hours to do other stuff that's not billable. Handling and closing leads. I want to talk a little bit about my closing process. Now, I get calls all the time. In fact, I was on a call today from a firm in Michigan. They called us up and they have they're a roof and deck firm that does roofs and decks and siding in Michigan and in Chicago market. And they run the whole business in Access. When they call me, I give them 1 free hour. And we set up a call. I said, okay, can you talk to us today at 3 in the afternoon? Sure. And they get 1 free hour from us. And my objective in that hour is to close them. I want to get them to yes, right? And the call I had today, is evidence she needed a lot of help because it's an old database, and I was not able to close them. But I have closed deals at the end of the call where they're ready to give me the credit card. Here's my credit card. You want to take it? Yes, absolutely. I'll take your credit card with the phone. You want to set up a sales process where you listen to their pain. So in that 1 hour, the first half hour, I'm listening to what they're telling me because I'm using that in the second half hour to close them, right? And so I'm asking pain questions. Why did you call me? Why is the database not working to your expectations? Do you have any issues with any bugs that you need fixed? Why are you upgrading? Why? How is it that you sell? What is it that you use the database for? Right? The how, what, and why are their business. And I'm using that to process in real time so that I can then close them in the half hours that follows. Right? So I'm asking pain. I'm going through pain questions. Half hour goes by, says, okay, and I have them show me their database, right? Through screen sharing, and they're showing me either database or their spreadsheet or their list of requirements, what have you. And then we flip the script, and then I share my screen with them. And I show them, what I do is I say, okay, well, thank you for showing me your system. Would you like to see an example of our work, right? Because again, they don't know me for squat. They found out through me through Google AdWords. They love my Google ad. They love my website. I still have to validate in their mind that I'm the firm for them. So when they call one of my competitors, they say, well, clearly it's like night and day. Juan and his team know exactly what they're doing versus this guy, right? And so what I tell them after half an hour, I says, well, would you like to see a demo of our work? And then I show them my screen and I show them a demo of my work. I have a beautiful demo with amazing features. We're talking about cloning of forms where they can have multiple orders up at the same time on the screen. It's still one form in a database called orders, but I replicate that form in memory. So if I'm knee deep in an order and somebody calls me and says, Juan, I need to talk to you about this other one, I don't have to close it, go look for that order, answer the question, close that order, look for the one I was in. No, I just leave that order open. I go search the other one, I answer the question, I close that order, I go back to exactly where I was. That's an amazing approach in Access. And most of my competitors don't know how to do that, even though I've actually given out the code for that in prior chats. Talks here on this channel. I show them the report area, I show them the document center, I show them beautiful UI, beautifully designed UI. Some people tell me, is this a web app or is this Access? Why is that important? Because most people have never seen a professionally done Access database. They just haven't. All they've seen is what Fred and the warehouse put together, and they love it, right? I mean, there could be a whole discussion on the anatomy of how these applications become mission critical. And so all they see is their homegrown application, and they love it. But when they see the possibility of it, of where I can take them to promised land, that's a whole new level, right? That they're getting, right? Because I end the discussion with a few key questions regarding the budget. Now, Linda mentioned this earlier in the call. I asked after I showed them a demo and I got an email on my hand, and they love it. That says, would you like to get an estimate how much this will cost? Because I've done this so many years, I can come up with estimate of more or less how much the prices will be. It's important to me that I give them an estimate of what it will be, because I want to make sure that they can afford me. I don't want to go and create a proposal, spend a couple hours creating a proposal, only to find out that it's way over their budget, right? So I give them the demo, and then I wrap up and I say, hey, okay, so did you like, so here's how I transition to pricing, right? I finish the demo, and then I stop sharing my screen and it says, okay, John, did you like what you saw in the demos? Yes. Do you feel, based on the questions I asked you, that I got a good grasp of the problem you're having? Yes. Do you feel confident that we, based on the fact that I'm an Access MVP and Microsoft Go partner, that we are capable of solving your problem? Yes. So what I'm doing is I'm asking questions where I know the answer is yes. I want to get into that rhythm saying yes, yes, yes. So when I hit them up with the pricing, it says, does that sound reasonable? Yes. All right, great. Right. So I start with these yes questions, and then I give them a range. Now, let's say, for example, it's a $20,000 project. So I'll say, look, I'm going to give you an estimate. Don't hold me to it, because I still have to give you a formal proposal. But this project, we're talking between 20 and maybe 27,000. 20 is what I want. If I want 20,000, that's the low end of the estimate I give them, right? I don't want to give them 15 to 20, because invariably they're going to hold on to that 15. That's all they hear, right? So you give them a range, and the 20, make sure the lower number is the one you're actually happy with closing with. And they're and then I ask them, are we in the same ballpark? Now, before this, I actually ask them what their budget is. You'd be surprised how many times they will tell me what their budget is. So it's, oh yeah, my budget is $10,000 for this project, or it's 5,000, or I don't have a budget, which is completely erroneous. Everybody has a budget, but they don't want to tell you what the budget is. Some people actually tell me, no, I'm not going to tell you the budget, but some people do. So I always ask, what is your budget for this? And sometimes, look, there was one instance where they told me the budget was $5,000. They ended up spending $125,000 on me. So this thing with budget is not necessarily the end all of everything. Don't give up on them if they don't have. It's just they don't know. They don't understand the complexity of what's possible. Make sense? I take credit cards. This is I used to have this slide where, if you were to hire me and I charge you 5% commission, would you take that deal, right? In other words, Juan Soto will come work for you, and my commission is 5%. And I'm going to bring you 150,000 new business. Would you take that deal, right? So basically, I'm making 5,000 out of 100,000. Oh yeah, I'll take that deal. Well, why aren't you taking credit cards? Because credit cards will allow your customers to easily transact with you. Now, we even did one better. We actually use QuickBooks Online for our business. And then when we have a new customer, we send them a deposit invoice. And there's a link in the invoice there so they can pay through QuickBooks and money gets deposited the next day in our bank account. So they can use credit cards, they can do whatever they want, but the QuickBooks accepts their payment. I mean, that's been tremendous for us in terms of closing deals because people want to use a credit card to get the points. And I'm gonna pay, and I pay I think 2% on my credit card transactions. So I'm glad he paid that, right? In order to make 98% on the dollar. So if you're not taking credit cards, please look into that. And the easiest way to credit cards is doing QuickBooks with payment there processing. So that's pretty much, I mean, there's a whole much more that we can talk about this topic. One of the things that I always want to emphasize is to take a deposit. Why is it important that you ask for a deposit? Now, in my case, if it's a $10,000 project or less, I'm going to ask you for half up front. All right, so you call me up, we do the pain analysis, and then I tell them, look, it's going to be between $7,000 and $10,000. Like, great, let's do it. I say, okay, if I came out with a proposal, I'll send you a proposal for $7,000. I'm gonna ask for $3,500 deposit. If it's more than $10,000, I'll ask for a third up front. Why is that important? Because people, it really weeds out the people who are not going to pay you. I've had people tell me, "Oh, we don't have enough money for a deposit." Well, if you don't have enough money for the deposit, how are you going to have money later on to pay for my invoices? I mean, that actually has happened to me. So it's a red flag if they can't pay your deposit. The other thing is help is tremendous for cash flow, right? I love deposits, and I put it as unearned income in my QuickBooks until then I start charging hours against that deposit. Once the deposit runs out, then I start sending them invoices for the rest of the work that I do. Also, proposals are critical, right? Make sure your proposals clearly outlines what the situation is. I send a proposal for everything except for the basic 10-hour package that we charge here. We just send them an email for them to hire us for 10 hours. The 10 hours is the lowest engagement that you can have with us. But other than the 10-hour block, everybody gets a proposal. Now we have an automated system to create proposals with our CRM, dynamic CRM. I mean, it's a 7-figure practice. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of automation here. The website's highly integrated with Microsoft Dynamics for sales. We do crank out a lot of proposals because we don't close everything, right? So if I close 6 deals throughout the month, I probably submitted anywhere between 10 and 15 proposals. So I close only 6 of those on a regular basis. But you should send a proposal, have them sign the proposal. And then what happens when they do price objections, right? Like say, for example, I've had people tell me, well, you're too expensive. This is okay. And go back to the yes questions, right? So I gave him the range. I said, okay, it's between 7,000. Oh, that's too expensive. I'm like, okay, well, forget about the price I just mentioned to you. Do you believe I understood the problem? Yes. Did you like the demo and how much power we can bring to bear on your issue? Yes, right? So I gave him these yes questions. I said, okay, well, I can work with you on the price. I'll sharpen my pencil. I can work with you on the price. Why is it I'm willing to work with them on the price? Why is it I'm willing to come down? Because the nice thing about us is we're not selling t-shirts. What we have is we're establishing a long-term relationship with these clients. The first engagement should be the first of many more years to come, right? And so we've done this analysis where clients who initially spent $7,000 or $15,000 end up spending $100,000 a year eventually with us. We have one client out of Colorado, they spent $100,000 a year with us. Right. And they started with a $15,000 project. And so it behooves me to engage them, lose money in the first project if need be, and then keep them on the hook and be able to service them for many more years to come. That should be your ultimate goal, right? It shouldn't be get a quick hit, get the money, get the deposit, finish the project, look for another customer. You want to start building a roster of clients. Now, when you first start out, you're going to have 1 or 2 eggs in a basket, right? So if you lose a client, that's devastating for your practice, right? If you only have 1 or 2 clients, it's devastating. You're not going to raise their rate because you're worried about it, right? That's another one. I have never lost a client for raising the rates. I just raised my rates to several clients that were at 185 to 235. One of them actually says, "Oh, that's too expensive." for us. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But she's still buying from us, even though she complained about the price. So raising your rates, you should never fear raising your rates. My experience has been that that hasn't been an issue. All right. So do you guys like the presentation?
Yes. I do things differently than you do, but it's interesting.
All right. Um, Anybody have any questions they want to have regarding this topic? I'm bearing my soul here,
Oh,
you guys. Go ahead.
hey Juan, no, it's a very insightful. Thank you for sharing. What about like LinkedIn leads and contacts and getting leads and customers, like LinkedIn and paying for LinkedIn services? What is it? How does that work for you or not work
I
for you?
spent thousands and thousands of dollars on LinkedIn advertising, and it does not compare with Google AdWords at all. It's just not worth it for me, at least. As I tried it, I tried. I've done the same thing with Facebook. I've done thousands because I don't go into this with a $500 budget. I'm like, okay, let's throw $20,000 at this. Let's throw $30,000 at this, right? And invariably, always get back to Google AdWords. Now, it could be my approach to LinkedIn advertising wasn't the best. Maybe I didn't have the right partners to help me out, right? But I can count on one hand how many leads I've gotten out of my LinkedIn, but it's mostly leads because they've seen my blog posts on LinkedIn. They come to my group. They reach out to me, hey, we need help with this particular project. And they see my so one of the things I encourage you to start your own group on LinkedIn, right? So if you're an Azure MVP, I'm gonna start a group on LinkedIn and I'm gonna moderate it and I'm going to approve who can join. And I'm going to be posting on that group, right? So if people want to get insights into Azure, they're going to learn this. So I try to post 2 or 3 posts a week. I usually don't get around to it, but I have my own group. I got 1,000 people in my group, more than 1,000 people in my group. It's called Access with SQL Server. And so it's a great way to, a lot of you guys who are on this call are on that group. But LinkedIn advertising, I can't tell you, I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on that, as well as with newspapers and radio. And invariably, I get back to Google AdWords, and this is just a way to do it. That was a great question. Thank you, Roy. Anybody else has any questions before we go?
No, but thank you very much. I mean, it's interesting and it's great that you're willing to share.
I'd
Thank
just
you.
like to expand a little bit on the initial contact. It's nice to actually have a script so the person who takes the call knows what questions to ask the prospective client and then what bits of information to give them to keep them on the hook. The other point I'll make is that business owners don't want to pay you for business analysis. They'll listen to your business analysis and they'll go, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. They won't pay you for it, but they will pay you to implement it with software. So you've got to give them the good business analysis to get the software development work. That's kind of what I find.
And it's tough, right? It's tough because, again, you're selling your time, whether it be business analysis or programming, you're selling time. Now, what I've done is I've adopted an approach that I learned from Armin Stein. And if you haven't followed Armin, he's got a great blog at jstreetconsulting.com. But Armin taught me many years ago about phase zero, where I said, look, sometimes they'll call me. Like, for example, that factory. I had this client last year. I closed a ice cream factory. They run multiple shifts. It's a $60 million business. They produce ice cream. You probably consume some of their ice cream because they're a co-packer. And there's no way in me in an hour to give you an accurate estimate of overhauling your systems. It's just not, right? So that's where the analysis come in that Kent mentioned. So I told him, look, I'm going to give you a 3-day on-site phase zero analysis proposal. We're going to come in. Usually it's me. It's always me. I come in for 3 days and I have the schedule already about how I'm going about doing this. Day one, I come in, I introduce myself to the team. I do a factory tour. I get to taste some ice cream for lunch. In the afternoon, I go over the system from a power user standpoint. That's day two. I'm in the thick of the database design, code design, looking at the code, the database, the files. And then day three, I wrap up day three with analysis of findings of what I found and an accurate estimate of how much would it be. So I charge them for that, right? Because my time is money. And I convinced them to doing that. So I encourage you to do the same thing. I know you say you get that for free. That's some valuable stuff. But the fact is that they need to demonstrate to you that they're willing to invest in you as well, not to invest in them, but also they need to invest in you in this relationship. Free is good until nobody
No,
makes money.
no,
No,
free is not good.
I
It
didn't
says
say
that
I
you
gave
don't
it to
value
them.
your work. And the
I
other
did.
thing is, which I have not
Linda,
done.
let's let Ken finish. Go ahead, Ken. Go ahead,
Yeah.
finish.
I didn't say I gave them the analysis for free. I said they don't want to pay for your
They don't want
business
to pay for it.
analysis
Yeah, you did say that.
because
Yeah.
as soon as you explain it, they think, well, that's just common sense. But, that's part of what you bill them for the development of those systems that you're talking to them about. So, no, I'm not giving it away to them for
Okay.
free,
Good,
but
good. Glad to hear that.
that's built as part of the development process. But without the software development behind it, if I was just going in and telling people how to run their business, they go, oh, thanks for that. That's just common sense. And
Yeah.
there's no
Something I,
actual.
okay, something I have not actually pushed myself, but it just occurred to me during this conversation, to go after people who have huge Excel spreadsheets because they're just having so much trouble with it, and you can explain how having an Access database would give them a much better outcome.
Okay. So, run that by me again. I'm sorry, Linda. What was the issue again?
I'm suggesting that you could advertise on Excel sites because people who are using huge Excel spreadsheets with a lot of difficulty could be easily talked into, or maybe not so easily, into an Access database that would give them a much better outcome.
Yeah,
Yes.
well,
And I do
I've
something similar to you. What I do is I say, all right, let me give you $1,000 worth of service, and at the end of that, we'll see where we want to go.
well, one of the things that Access does that Excel doesn't do is the really nice Access reporting. But Excel does the charting really nicely, but doesn't give them the reports that they want to produce. So that's one thing. But I've had clients who've come to me because their Excel expert have told them there's just too much data for a spreadsheet. It's got to be in a database. And they come to me and say, well, we want to put it in a database, but we want to be just one big spreadsheet in the database. And go, it's not kind of how it works.
Well, I mean, that's the natural progression, right? Going from Excel to Access, Access SQL Server, Access to web app, right? I've had clients over the years go through that progression, but these Excel projects invariably are quite complex because Excel is great at formulas. What if analysis, and Access is never designed for that, right? So those formulas have to be programmed either in queries or in code. And so those projects can be quite expensive. I had a situation last year where a South Carolina company called us up. They had this very complex spreadsheet system, and it's taken them around $65,000 worth of our work to finish it off because it's just very complex Excel. I had a New York contractor. He used Excel to calculate bonuses on construction jobs. That was 45,000 to convert the Excel to Access. These Excel to Access problems are not cheap. They require a lot of attention and detail. And it's, to a certain extent, you're trying to put a square peg into a round hole because Excel is great at one thing, Access is great at another, and you're trying to recreate the Excel spreadsheet system. I mean, I still take that work, but they're very tedious, very time consuming, and therefore very expensive.
You can
Yes,
do both. In other words, I have clients where, we use Access and then I give them a spreadsheet output sometimes, but, like even if you say it's $45,000, think about it as a person. And if they're able to save a person because they can do the work faster with Access, it's worth the 45,000.
Yeah. Well,
well,
I mean, look, it's got to have an ROI. Go ahead, Kent.
yeah. The other thing that you can get across to them is that with Access, you can do more validation and you can put constraints on what the users can do. Whereas in spreadsheets, they can just create mayhem and havoc. That's one of the other points. But you do get some situations where people just want to input stuff in spreadsheets and you have to link that to an Access database. so that Access can do the reporting and a lot of the validation and what have you. So you do end up with these hybrid situations,
Yeah.
which was a lot easier when you could actually update a linked Excel spreadsheet directly. There's ways around that now, but that hybrid situation, yeah, it does come up where you actually have to allow users to work in that spreadsheet environment that they're accustomed to while still giving the advantages of Access.
Yeah. Yeah. But, usually I convert them over 100%, but you're right. Sometimes they want to keep Excel. They want to hold on to that safety blanket, if you will, and keep that thing. Look, one of the things I wanted to do is inspire you guys. I have a 7-figure practice. It was not easy. I make it look easy. This has been years in the making. I've stumbled. I've actually talked about this on my LinkedIn profile. I actually I restarted this firm twice. The first time around, I had a minor heart attack, and I had to leave it. I went to sell insurance. I became an insurance agent, and so but I come back to this, and now I figured this out, and I'm sharing this wealth of information with you guys in the hopes that you don't have to make the same mistakes I do. I love what I do. I love sales. These days, that's all I do is sales. I'm very don't program anymore, which is probably not a good thing because I'm an Access MVP and I want to inspire other people, right? But I'm still on top of these technologies, especially AI. And I feel that the promise of AI is such that we need to make an inflection point and start considering that. So one of the things that we're doing, there is no longer a Microsoft Go partner. That's obsolete. Now you have to be a solution provider, and I picked the data and AI solution provider certification because I want to start diving into AI and be able to help my clients with the AI aspect of it. But still a lot of money. We're like COBOL programmers. We'll still be around many years after Microsoft stops updating Access. Still updating it. Access is not going away anywhere, but we'll still have many more years to come doing this. Well, look, I want to thank everybody who showed up today. This is our last session of the season. We're going to have our summer break, so there is no June, July, or August. We'll be back in September. So stay tuned to my LinkedIn channel. If you haven't already, please join my LinkedIn group, Access with SQL Server. Love to see you there. If you like the presentation, please tweet about it. Say, hey, great, great presentation. My Twitter account is jsoto22 or on LinkedIn. Love shout out. Look forward to having make sure you have a great summer and be safe out there. And thank you very much for joining.
Thanks,
Okay,
Juan.
have a great summer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Talk to you in September.
See you
Bye-bye.
later. Talk to you later. Yep. Right.
Thank you.